So my experience of growing up in Portlaoise was good. I grew up in a place called St. Bridget's, which is a council estate not far from here. I would have considered it normal, but reflecting back on it a few years after, more recently, it probably was not as normal as other people's childhoods,
Davy went down to the sea one day. He got on a boat and sailed away across the ocean to foreign lands, to reach blue skies and to golden sands. His first mistake was his only one. He never said goodbye to anyone. When the boat turned over, poor Davy cried. I'm not a sailor, but at least I tried. And no one in this town is ever falling up. They're always falling down.
We didn't really need much. We weren't stuck for anything, but at the same time, we were never well off, My father worked on and off. My mother worked a lot, and like a lot of fathers and mothers at the time, they were trying to make do, and they were trying to do the best they could for their children. So that's what it was like, I did enjoy it. There was lots of times where there was a lot of family living around me, so I had cousins and friends, and there was a big community of us. I kind of knew everybody who lived in each house, and actually at the time, a lot of people would have said this, that you could leave your key in the front door and go away for the day, and there'd be nothing touched afterwards, when you came back. So I don't think that's the same now. I don't think it'd be safe to do that anymore, which is sad, really. There was always singing. My mother and father would sing. There'd be sort of house parties and different things where relations would come over and they'd sing a lot of songs by Luke Kelly and the Dubliners, and that really struck a chord with me, watching people get emotional listening to music, and it moved them, and it started to move me as a child, and it really affected me, that kind of the strength or the power of a song. Some of my earliest memories, I can remember my mother playing a song by James Brown, Get Up Off of That Thing, and when I heard the song, I'd immediately start dancing or reacting to it. So that was probably one of my earliest little outbursts. I did find a guitar one time when I was a child, probably around the same time, 4 or 5, maybe 6 years of age, and it was a guitar somebody had thrown out onto the back lane for the bin lorry to collect, and I brought it in thinking I could, play it as a child. But anyway, from there, an interesting thing, my father was big into music and listening to the likes of Bob Dylan, and so much so he wanted to call me Dylan. Before that though, in primary school also, that a teacher called Mr. Booth had us up around his desk, and he played keyboards and guitar with the school choir. So that was another introduction to songs and singing. It's always been around me in some shape or form. I can't imagine a life without music, to be honest with you. It seems to have been the path almost that's laid out for me, and I've just followed it because I never got stick to anything else, and I could never get enough feeling from anything else other than playing music in some shape or form.
Down by the water's edge, fireworks overhead, we gather and sing Stephen's name. And from the Buddha side, the Danube comes alive, lit up by the bursting flames. The stars are falling like a Martian attack, screeching from the infinite black.
I think the music scene in Portlaoise is absolutely fantastic. There are so many groups and musicians playing, and all the way down through the years. There's a local author, John Dunn, who has written about this, and there's people from way back who have had bands, show bands, and so there's always been a scene. And way after I'm gone, I hope that the scene would continue, And I've been fortunate enough to work with some of the best locally and from other counties, I've worked with Niall Harney, the bass player, David Hart, the bass player, Paul Flynn, drummer, a good friend of mine, Brian Lawler, and Brian O'Mahony. You know, we've worked on different projects down through the years. I most recently worked with Terry Byrne, who's another singer-songwriter from Portlaoise, a very good one actually, and he helped me out on the culture night in September there a few weeks back, helped me playing some of my own stuff, you know. And it's always been, there's something always happening in Portlaoise. Even during the year, they've started this festival, the fourth festival. I think now it's the second or third year, which is brilliant. It's really good for the town, you know. It's all the musicians that are in the town come together, and they'll have some other big acts from around outside the county.
When it's time to leave, you turn around to me and give a reassuring smile. So then I know full well you're my protective shell that I've been missing for a while. You are the one who always has my back to shield me from the infinite black.
You don't have to listen to what people tell you. You know, you might let in one ear and out the other, but you don't have to react to it. You know, I've heard comments at gigs. Can you not play something we all know? That's the classic comment. Or will you never liven up? Are you depressed? Somebody said to me one time, and that person I can still picture, would you believe? It's funny, the mind just holds on to something, but it's not important anymore. Like, I play my gig, I enjoy the songs I sing. I get inspired by people, places, you know, events that have happened. Falling Up was a song that actually came fairly quick. I can remember back one night being out drinking, and the next morning slightly hungover, just picking up the guitar and being able to play this song. And that's really the way it happened, almost word for word. But it had probably been building up for a long time inside of me, of looking at different things that were going on. Self-destruction is a big kind of theme in that. Like, why are we always kind of knocking ourselves down? We tend to do that. Well, I tend to do it a good bit, you know, put myself down rather than getting up and doing something. I'm not so bad nowadays. I can get around that, but at the time, that's the song that reflected that. You know, we're always falling down. Why can't we just fall up? There are a lot of opportunities for young musicians as well coming up, you know, and I think maybe you should all help out each other, you know, and try to do your best at what you're doing yourself, and also try to look for the best in other people and give them a helping hand, you know. And then there's other projects like the youth club and all that are churning out some great bands and great musicians. And here in the Laois School of Music and Music Generation, I'm teaching some young musicians guitar and ukulele, and I can see there's great potential and a great future for Portlaoise and Laois and Ireland, with some of the musicians that are coming up, you know.
Sometimes it's hard keeping your head in the game. Life is a puzzle that we try to rearrange. And after all this, I don't care what comes true, 'cause my dreams are real anywhere beside you.
So my advice to young musicians who are starting out in a music career is to enjoy the process. That's the one thing I would say. Don't focus on the outcome, you know. The outcome is not as important as the process. Like, one of my favourite quotes I've heard down through the years is, you know, happiness, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way, you know. So focus on what you're doing now and try to get better at doing that, you know, and don't think of, oh, I'm going to be this and that and the other. Like, fame, there's so much focus on fame nowadays, you know. Everybody wants to be famous, but not everybody will make it. But the thing is to make the best of what you have and make a career of what you can do. And everybody's unique, so nobody can do what you can do, and you can't really do what somebody else can do. So stick to your own individuality, you know. Don't try to replicate other people. It is important to look at older songs and musicians who have done it, to get ideas and, you know, see what they've done right that worked for them. But don't try to become somebody else. Don't try to dress like somebody else or sing like somebody else, you know. Be yourself. Also, focus on your instrument. Try to get as good as you can and strive to be better at your instrument. You know, whether that's guitar, piano, ukulele. Try to be the best at your ukulele or whatever you're playing, or your vocals. You know, and then eventually it will unfold. The path that you're on will unfold and let you. Of course, you have to have determination, and there is a bit of luck involved. But just enjoy what you're doing and help each other out as well. Don't, you know, be jealous of somebody else. Strive to make a community of all the local musicians and help each other out, support each other. You know, set up clubs, whatever you can do to. You say, I know this thing, do you know it, or whatever, you know what I mean? So just try and support each other and have compassion for each other and yourself.
Falling down.